I'm plotting the ideal path for a Buffalo Bills Super Bowl run in 2025 today on Locked On Bills.
You are Locked On Bills, your daily Buffalo Bills podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Bills Mafia? It's Joe Marino, author of the Herd Mentality Substack, co-host of the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast, co-host of the NFL First Read Podcast, and I'm your host of Locked On Bills. Want to thank you for making Locked On Bills your first listen every day, and a big welcome and shout out to our everydayers. You know who you are. Those of you who never miss a single episode, I appreciate y'all being here very, very much. I'd also like to invite you to subscribe or follow for free on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. This episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Well, folks, welcome in. I am delivering my Buffalo Bills 2025 schedule wish list today on the podcast. And I know there's a lot of folks out there that are saying, who cares? You'll play any team, anywhere, anytime. And I certainly get that. And of course, the Buffalo Bills will play any team, anywhere, at any time. To my knowledge, there's never been an NFL game where a team chose not to show up and play the game because they were mad about who, when, and where the game was played. So with that out of the way, I do want to discuss the most advantageous path possible for the Bills to be the highest playoff seed possible so that they have the most favorable path to the Super Bowl as possible. So with that in mind, I want to give you a bunch of stuff today on this episode that I hope to see on Wednesday night when the schedule's released, and a bunch of things that I hope not to see on the schedule when it's released on Wednesday night. Now, we're going to get well beyond the obvious of rest disadvantages. Of course, I want the Bills to have no rest disadvantages and lots of rest advantages. So outside of that, there's a lot of details that I would love to discuss with you today. All right, the one thing that we do know about the schedule is the opponents. And there's some people that have questions about this, and they wonder, why do the Bills play the Chiefs every year? Why does that always happen? Well, it's the way the cycle goes. And so I'll talk about the opponents that the Bills have on the schedule this year and how we got there, which is really just cyclical. So first of all, you play every team within your division, home and away. So the Bills are in the AFC East. They play the Jets, Dolphins, and Patriots, home and away. Then all four teams in your division play another AFC division on a rotating 3-year cycle. So this year, it's the AFC East's turn to play the AFC North. So all teams, including the Bills in the AFC East, will play the Ravens, Steelers, Browns, and Bengals. Then you have 2 intra-conference games based on last year's standings. So there's 4 teams in the 4 divisions in the AFC East, North, South, and West. We already talked about playing the East. The Bills are playing all of the North, and so the Bills will play the first place team from the AFC West and the AFC South from 2024, and that would be the Texans and the Chiefs. Then you also play, everyone in your division plays all 4 teams from an NFC conference on a rotating 4-year cycle. This year, the AFC East is going to play the NFC South. So all teams in the AFC East will play the Bucs, Saints, Panthers, and Falcons. Then you have 1 additional interconference game based on the prior year's standings. That division is on a 4-year cycle. The Bills finished first in the AFC East, so they will play the winner of the NFC East from 2024, which is the Philadelphia Eagles. And that's how the schedule is made. This year, the AFC and the Bills get 9 home games and 8 away games. So the 9 home games are the AFC East, Ravens, Bengals, Bucs, Saints, Chiefs, and Eagles. It's quite the home slate. Quite the year to close out Highmark Stadium with a lot of heavy hitters coming to town. The 8 road opponents, of course, the AFC East, Steelers, Falcons, Panthers, Browns, and Texans. According to last year's strength of schedule, according to opponents' combined 2024 win percentage, the Bills have the 10th easiest schedule based on the win percentage of last year's opponents. Not sure how much that matters year over year, but I think that's interesting. So let's get into things that I hope to see. Let's talk about the opener. Who do I want to see the Bills play first? I usually like the idea of getting a West Coast road trip out of the way in week one. Now, the furthest the Bills travel for a road game in 2025 is Houston for the Texans. I would not mind that. I would not mind opening on the road in Houston. Houston has a new offensive coordinator. They have a reworked offensive line, lots of new receivers. And so that would be an appealing matchup in terms of week one. Now, Houston's got a very good defense, really at all three levels of the defense. That would be tough. But at least you feel like you're getting a potent offense before they hit their stride. And you get your furthest travel out of the way in week one. And so I wouldn't mind seeing on the road Houston to start the year. Now, this is a year where the Bills have 9 home games and 8 road games. And so I certainly wouldn't mind opening the year at home. Which opponent would be ideal for the home opener? Well, I think the Patriots at 1 o'clock would be ideal. I think the Patriots are a team with a ton of new players on both sides of the ball. New head coach in Mike Vrabel. Josh McDaniels is back as the offensive coordinator. And while those are familiar coaches for the Bills to go play against in Vrabel and McDaniels, those players are not necessarily super familiar with those schemes. And so I think they'll take some time to hit the ground running. And so I'd love to start at home against New England while they're still figuring out how to play in these new schemes with all those new players against an opponent that's familiar in terms of, the Bills have played a lot of Mike Vrabel teams, a lot of Josh McDaniels teams. I would like that. And then you get a chance to put the Patriots in an 0-1 hole and you start 1-0, right? It felt like we took forever to face the Patriots last year. It was like 2 of the last 3 games. I'd rather not do that this year. And they're a team that I can just see getting better and better throughout the course of the year. So let's play them early. Start the year 1-0. So that would be attractive to me. And then I'll give you one other attractive opener, and it would be the Bengals. The Bengals are not a very good early season team. They're especially not a very good week 1 team. They've lost their last 3 week 1 games. And under Zach Taylor, their head coach, they're 1-5 in week 1. So let's open the season at home against the Bengals on Sunday Night Football, where they've historically struggled quite a bit. And the Bengals are a team that I think have a lot of questions defensively, tons of questions on defense, but offensively, that passing game is really good. And it's timing based, and it's given the Bills trouble whenever they've had to face Joe Burrow. So let's get that team when they're at their most rusty, which has been historically week 1. So my ideal openers, give me one of these 3. At Houston, at home against New England, or at home against the Bengals. All right, coming up next, I want to talk about the teams that I want to play early in the schedule and some teams that I don't want early in the schedule. We'll do that and a whole lot more. Be sure to stick with me. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just another budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you stop just managing your money and you start building wealth. The insights are surprising. When I started using Monarch, I realized just how much I was spending on food delivery. Now I budget smarter and save more. And it's super convenient. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals. And it's easy to collaborate. Managing money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNFL for half off your first year. All right, let's get into the teams that I like to see early on the schedule, the teams I don't want to see early, talk about weather games and the bye week in this segment. 3 teams I'd love to see early on the schedule. 2 of them, actually, I've already talked about all these. These are all teams that I wanted to face in the opener. They're all teams that I'd like to get early. The Patriots, the Texans, and the Bengals. As I've stated with the Patriots, the Bills have played McDaniels and Vrabel a ton, but those players haven't been in those schemes. A lot of new pieces. Get them early on. So whether that's home or away, an early game against the Patriots would be ideal to me. Same thing with the Texans. New offensive coordinator, new offensive line, working in a bunch of new receivers. Let's play them early. And the Bengals. Not only have they struggled in week 1-5 under Zach Taylor, major questions on that defense, and a new defensive coordinator in Al Golden. And let's get them early in the year where they're trying to figure that out. Might be a high-scoring game. But I like that opportunity against that Bengals defense early. So those are teams I'd like to get early. I didn't even mean to do that. I planned those segments independently, who I'd want to play in the opener, and then who I want to get early. And I literally just, as I was working through this, realized that they were the same teams. Teams I don't want to play early in the season. I have 3 of those for you. First of all, the Jets. You might be thinking, why not? Why not play the Jets? Well, they have a brand new coaching staff with Aaron Glenn taking over as the head coach and Justin Fields at quarterback. And not that I think the world of Justin Fields or this new Jets coaching staff, but it would be a team that I think would be helpful to get some tape on, right? Get an understanding of exactly what they want to be offensively and defensively. There's a lot of personnel differences in New York with the Jets than what Aaron Glenn had defensively with the Lions, and Steve Wilkes is the defensive coordinator. And I'm very curious to see how that comes together. And then, Justin Fields at quarterback, I think that's going to look a lot different. I want to get a feel. There's to be some tape out there on the Jets before we play them. The Ravens are another team I don't want to play early. And the reason I don't want to play the Ravens early is because the Bills have 2 players that are going to be suspended for the first 6 weeks of the season, and Michael Hoyt and Larry Ogunjobi. Michael Hoyt is a very versatile player that can play off the ball at linebacker, can play on the line as a defensive end. And I think he would be really important against Baltimore. He would help the Bills match up with their heavier personnel. Baltimore likes to run 2 tight end stuff. They'll put that big old fullback Patrick Ricard on the field. And a guy like Michael Hoyt, I think, would help a ton if he were available, not to mention Larry Ogunjobi. But I say the Ravens, I don't want them early specifically because I want for Michael Hoyt to be available for that game, because I think that's the type of skill set that can really help Buffalo's defense. The other team that I don't want to play early, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Todd Bowles, I don't love him as a head coach, but whenever that guy has a little extra time, he seems to be really good. And of course, they're not going to be sitting around game planning for the Bills right now if it's an early season game. But, if that were to be like the opening week game, I want Todd Bowles to have a full off season defensively to focus in on his plan for defending Josh Allen. And the Bills don't have a lot of opportunities to bring warm weather teams up north, and they're coming up to Orchard Park. I'd like to play the Bucs later in the schedule when we have a chance to put a Florida team in the December chill of Western New York. So teams I don't want early, the Jets, the Ravens, and the Bucs. Let's talk about some potential weather games. Now, of course, that conversation starts with any late season home game for the Buffalo Bills. Anytime the Bills are playing at home, late November on, there's a chance it's windy. Well, it's always a chance that it's windy, but cold, a little bit of snow. You know how this goes. And so with that in mind, I think about the teams that are from the South that you can bring up north. We talked about one already, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Miami Dolphins every year. That's a possibility. And then, of course, the New Orleans Saints, a dome team from New Orleans, Louisiana. You love to get those teams on your schedule late in the season at home. So those are your three opportunities to bring a team from the South up north in the cold. Bucs, Saints, Dolphins. Let's hope to see some of those opponents at home later in this schedule. Other road possibilities, weather games, things to be mindful of. The road schedule, the Bills have 8 road games. 4 of them are in climate-controlled stadiums. 2 of them are in climate-controlled stadiums. The Texans and the Falcons, that's it. Texans and Falcons are your only climate-controlled environments. And those are fun games because we know Josh Allen can put up some big numbers in covered venues. Remember last year against the Rams and the Lions? That'd be fun. Those are fun. So we get to look forward to those opportunities against the Texans and the Falcons. Now, obviously, the Texans are a pretty good defense, so that'd be a tough challenge. Obviously, Josh Allen had one of the worst games of his career last year against the Texans on the road. But hopefully the Bills are better positioned to take advantage of the climate-controlled environment in Houston. The Bills have a couple of potential heat games. Of course, at Miami, that's a possibility every year. You don't want to see that one early. And then at Carolina, you play in Carolina in September, it could be scorching hot. I know that. I live in Charlotte. And so you hope that you get Carolina, that road game in Carolina, October, November, something like that. After you want to get out of September. September can be really, really hot in the Charlotte area. So there's no other threats, though. We talked about 2 indoor games, the Falcons and Texans. And then your other road games are in Boston, East Rutherford, New Jersey, Pittsburgh, and Cleveland. So your only 2 possibilities for heat games at Miami, at Carolina. Let's talk about the bye week. It's always ideal for your bye week to come week 10 or later. There's been a good correlation between when the bye week lands and recent Super Bowl winners. Now, the 2024 Eagles didn't fall into that. The Eagles had their bye week in week 5. Of course, they won the Super Bowl, but they did have week 11 Thursday night football, which I think was helpful for them. They had a mini bye into week 12. So you play on Thursday and then not again to the following Sunday. And so if you get an early bye, you really want to see a late season Thursday night game to give yourself an opportunity at a mini bye. But outside of that, other Super Bowl winners and when their bye week hit. In 2023, the Chiefs in week 10, 2022 Chiefs in week 8, 2021 Rams in week 11, the Bucs in 2020 week 13, Chiefs in 2019 week 12, Patriots in 2018 week 11, Eagles in 2017 week 10. You see this? I mean, most of these teams that win the Super Bowl have late season buys. So we're hoping for, when you see that schedule, hope for that bye week to fall week 10 or later. All right, coming up next, I want to talk primetime targets, the potential for holiday games, potential for international games, and more. So be sure to stick with me. Welcome back, everybody. A quick reminder to you that we have new programming here on Locked On Bills. We've been going a few weeks now, but it's Bills Squad. Every single Monday and Thursday, we go live on the Locked On Bills YouTube channel at noon Eastern time. Myself, Jeremy White, Jerry Ostrowski. It's an hour long. It's roundtable discussion on the Buffalo Bills. It's been going really great to this point. The feedback has been awesome. And come join us. Come be part of the live audience. We're taking questions from the audience as well. So come be part of it Mondays, Thursdays, live, noon Eastern time on the Locked On Bills YouTube channel. And then, of course, it lives on YouTube, but you can download it. We get it published as quickly as we can, right around 1:15, 1:30, something like that. So you get that additional content in your feed every week on Mondays and Thursdays. All right, let's keep talking about the schedule wish list, the dynamics of this schedule for the Bills that we will see in full on Wednesday night. But we know that primetime games are coming, right? It's part of the deal. The Bills are one of the best teams in the league, have been for a number of years. Josh Allen is appointment TV, and the NFL likes to put him in primetime slots. And so let's talk about some of those dynamics. Now, keep in mind, 6 primetime games is the max that a team can be scheduled for. Now, you can have more with the flex scheduling, but initially, in terms of how the schedule unfolds, you can only have 6. Now, the only thing that counts towards the primetime games are Thursday Night Football, Sunday Night Football, and Monday Night Football. That's it. So Thanksgiving, Black Friday, Christmas, none of that counts. International games do not count for your standalone primetime games. Now, last year I went through and I went back at my notes. I actually correctly predicted 5 of the 6 primetime games from last year: the Jags, Ravens, Dolphins, Niners, and Lions. So I'll give you some thoughts on who I think the primetime games will be this week or this year. But also keep this in mind. A lot of times the people will look at certain games that the Bills play and you're like, I can't believe that wasn't a primetime game. Well, Sunday at 4:25 is the NFL's highest ratings window. So that's why the Bills and Chiefs always play at that time. And so just keep that in mind. Like, the most watched window isn't primetime. It's 4:25 on Sunday. I think these are your candidates for primetime this year. Home games, the Ravens, the Bengals, and Bucks. In fact, those have all been recent primetime opponents for the Bills. Ravens, obviously a Super Bowl contender. The Bucks, they've won that division like 4 years in a row. The Bucks are a good football team. I think people are sleeping on them. They've been really good. Baker Mayfield's really good. And then, of course, the Bengals, Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. They can't play any defense, but they score a lot of points. So I think those 3 home games are a possibility. In addition to the Patriots, I think the NFL is always going to have a little bit of a soft spot for the New England Patriots. They got a good-looking young quarterback in Drake May. Mike Vrabel's back. And, of course, the Stephon Diggs factor. I'm sure they'd love to put Stephon Diggs' return to Buffalo on primetime. So I think those are possibilities. In terms of road primetime games, the Texans come to mind. C.J. Stroud, good young quarterback. Texans have been in the playoffs the last 2 years with him since he's been drafted, and they've won a playoff game each of the last 2 years. And so I'm sure that would be an attractive game. How about at the Falcons, team that I think is perceived as on the rise? Michael Penix, a first-round quarterback, top 10 quarterback from last year, gets his chance to be a starter this year, like from the outset. They got some firepower on offense. I'm sure the NFL could see the Bills and Falcons as an attractive team. And then I'd also invoke the Steelers. The Bills have played the Steelers on primetime before. Blue blood, legacy team in the NFL, the Steelers. Steelers, Bills, you can see that happening on primetime. So my predictions for primetime this year: Ravens, Bengals, Bucks, Patriots, Texans, Falcons, and Steelers. Those feel like the right teams for the primetime. And again, I didn't pick the Eagles. I didn't pick the Chiefs because I think those will be 4:25 games. I think those are too good of games, or too marquee of games to be primetime. I think the league's going to want them at 4:25. In terms of holidays, we know there's a chance on holidays. The NFL now plays games not only on Thanksgiving, but on Black Friday, there's a game, and there's a triple header on Christmas this year. And so I am never hoping that the Bills play on these holidays. I know some people see it differently than me. I want to spend time with my family on holidays, and I love the Bills, but if the Bills play a game, it's like a 6 to 8 hour commitment of my time. I want to hang out with my kids and my family. On Black Friday, we always go to the North Carolina mountains and do a day trip and cut down a Christmas tree. I'd like to do that. I wouldn't like that to be complicated by Friday afternoon Bills game. So I am not actively rooting for that. I'm certainly not rooting for a Christmas game. Are you kidding me? I don't want to be watching the Bills. I want to be playing with my kids and hanging out with my family. Now, if the Bills do play on Christmas, I hope it's the 8:20 game. There's a 1 o'clock, 4:30, and an 8:20 game. Please let it be the 8:20 game. If the Bills have to play on Christmas, please let it be an 8:20 game. That's my one request. In fact, I'll say this. If the Bills have to play on any holiday, I do hope it's Christmas at 8:20. That would be the most ideal for me. But I'm sure between the Black Friday game, 3 on Christmas, and then Thanksgiving, I think the Bills are certainly going to have to play one of those slots. Now, the Bills don't play in Detroit or Dallas, so the only time they could play on Thanksgiving would be the night game. And so that's fine. We can live with that, although I got to wake up early and get to the mountains the next morning. So if I get to pick a holiday time slot for the Bills to play, let it be Christmas at 8:20, but also, how about just not doing that? Sorry, I want to play with my kids. All right, international games. You never love having to play an international game. The Bills absolutely botched the Jacksonville trip a couple of years ago. Sean McDermott talking about banking sleep, showing up on the Friday. The Jags have been there for 2 weeks. An absolutely embarrassing trip. So I don't love the idea of having to play an international game, especially after what we saw it look like under McDermott. Hopefully he's learned some lessons. But I will say this. If there ever was a year to play an international game, this might be the right one for the Bills. You got 8 road games this year, so that's helpful, right? You don't have 9 road games. You have 8. Overall, the Bills' travel schedule is very light. The furthest they go is Houston. Then it's Miami, and then everything else is like in the Northeast. Like Atlanta and Carolina, those are not far flights. Those are 90-minute flights. So if there ever was a year based on it being a year where you have 8 road games, the overall travel schedule is light, it's inevitable that you have to do it. It's not a bad year to knock it out. And the Bills have some potential opponents because we know which teams are hosting international games, and we know who the Bills play on the road. So there's 4 possibilities. 2 of them would be division games. It's not unprecedented that the NFL would schedule a divisional game for an international game, but I think it's less likely. So the Jets play in London. The Dolphins play in Spain. Those are possibilities. The one that seems to have some momentum is the Steelers in Ireland. So that's a possibility. And the Browns play in London as well. That's another team that the Bills play on the road. So, okay, sure. Let's go play Pittsburgh in Ireland. Check the box for an international game on a year where your schedule for travel is light to begin with, and you only have 8 road games. So I guess I wouldn't be that upset if it was an international game this year based on those dynamics. It's not a bad year to knock it out. You can't avoid it forever. So that's my wish list. Those are things I'm hoping to see, things I'm hoping to not see. We're going to do a lot of schedule stuff this week. I want to have a fun conversation on Wednesday about the quarterback matchups on the schedule for the Bills. And I'll give you a little tease on a podcast that I do every Tuesday and Thursday. It drops NFL First Read with Brett Whitefield over at Fantasy Points. So we do a twice a week podcast, Tuesdays and Thursdays. We're doing our head coach rankings on Tuesday, and we're doing our quarterback rankings on Thursday. So I'm going to use those quarterback rankings that are going to publish on Thursday on NFL First Read to talk about the Wednesday show. And we can look and see, okay, the Bills have matchups against my, 2nd, 4th, 12th, whatever ranked quarterbacks, and really talk about those unique challenges that they present to the Bills. And then we get the schedule on Wednesday night at 8 o'clock Eastern time. We're going to drop a show that night. So I'm, stay up, make sure I do a full analysis after I get a chance to break it all down. And if you've been an everydayer for a while, you know what that schedule breakdown's all about. We get into the nitty gritty. We get into the weeds with the schedule. So make sure you don't miss that on Wednesday, my analysis on the actual Bills schedule, as we've now provided you my wish list, all the dynamics, things that I'm hoping to see, not hoping to see. Fun week of content ahead for you here on Locked On Bills. Don't forget about Bill Squad Monday, Thursday, noon Eastern time. We're live on the Locked On Bills YouTube channel. All right, folks, that's going to do it for us here today. Thanks for being here. As always, I kindly ask that you share, subscribe, rate, and review. Have a great rest of your day. Go Bills, and I look forward to catching up with you again real soon.